The start of industrial revolution in England. It seems then that if the working classes earned more and spent more 1850 than the labouring poor of the pre-industrial times, they paid for it in the hard toil. The Industrial Revolution gave them a chance to better themselves by working harder. It had not yet given them anything for nothing by 1850. If we were to set against the welfare represented by higher money income and lower prices for manufactures though not for food, the disutility of longer, harder working hours, it is doubtful whether the balance would be tipped in their favour. For many of them life on these terms was only acceptable if heavily laced with strong liquor, and drunkenness, together with the degradation and cruelty which it gave rise, was one of the characteristic features of the English scene in the mid-19th century, as it had been of course 100 years or so before in the gin age. Strong drinks caused endless trouble to the employers of labour, as railway builders frequently complained, and it had an important influence on the outcome of parliamentary elections. It drew a firm line between the classes of society, between the respectable and the disreputable, between the two nations of rich and poor, in a way that was not nearly so evident in the 18th century. Compared with what it had been a century before then, the standard of living of the British people was higher on the average and a great deal more varied. It was also, for a larger number of people, if a smaller proportion of the population, more vulnerable and more squalid. For many more still, it was achieved at the cost of more labouring effort. The workers in the pre-industrial society have their hours of work dictated by the seasons, by the weather, by the hours of daylight and darkness, and by the limited number of opportunities for gainful employment open to the weaker members of the community, the women and children for example. Their leisure is not always their own choosing, though is not therefore valueless. In an industrial society, work can go on throughout the year and through the night so long as the output can find a market, and there are more gainful tasks for unskilled and relatively feeble